In Germany, something about that there was a demonstration going on. It was in Berlin.
Yeah.
And that somebody took some like stands or something and threw them up on the stage, and then they thought you weren't going to come back for the second set because there was a long pause or something. That sounds vaguely familiar.
Oh yeah, that happened, but it wasn't quite as simple as that. We did a sound check in the afternoon. There were some student revolutionaries came down there because that's when that was a trend, real popular in Germany. And they came down to the sound check and they asked whether or not we would assist them with a political event. And I said, well, what did you have in mind? And they said, there's going to be 8,000 kids here tonight and most of them have never demonstrated before, so we want you to tell them to come with us. And I said, yeah, where are you going?
Aiding in bed.
And they implied that, they said, it's a very cold night and it would be nice to have something warm like a fire at the Allied Command Center, which was right around the corner. So I told them that I thought that was bad mental health. And so they got pissed off about it and they came back and tried to wreck our concert. And when we went on stage, there was about 200 kids in the audience with red flags and cans of paint and cherry bombs and hard objects. And they started throwing things at the stage and marching around and chanting ho 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 Chi Minh and all this other crap. And so we had to play in the middle of that. We had to do like about a 3-hour concert. So we started playing. And we just kept on going. Then we took our intermission. And, well, before we took our intermission, there was a scene where they tried to rip up they had these restraining fences like you may have seen at places. They're steel or tubular steel about like this. These had concrete feet. And a bunch of kids picked the things up and tried to throw it onto the stage. And if it had landed, it would have crushed the drummer and the bass player. The promoter, a guy named Fritz Rau, caught it in midair.
That's what I heard. Herb Cohen was there.
Right.
And then if he
threw it back onto the guys who threw it down. And then one guy rushed the stage and Herbie put his foot through his face. And it was getting pretty bad. And a lot of them climbed up on the stage. When we took an intermission, they ran up on stage with wire cutters and chopped up a bunch of our stuff, and they disabled the PA. And we had to come back and play a second part of the show. And there was about 30 cops there that refused to do anything because they were so outnumbered. And they just stayed in the back, so they're ravaging our equipment. So we said, okay, we're going to go down and finish the show. And we went back on stage, and we pushed there was about 200 kids on the stage. You had to get them off. And the Brodies rewired as much of the stuff as they could. And as soon as we started playing again and things settled down, the only incident that happened in the second half of the show was a cherry bomb was thrown on stage and it exploded before it hit the stage, and it went off about this far from Don Preston's head, causing his head to go like that, which was not too swift. But other than that, they were pretty well contained for the second half of the show. And then just as we were about to close, the leader of the revolutionaries ran up on stage and grabbed the microphone and started ranting away in German. Now, I didn't know what the guy was saying, but it couldn't have been any good. So I said, okay, you guys, a little louder. So we started turning up the volume of the instruments to the point where any vocal anything would have been inaudible. And we just built up this immense feedback grunt that was like Don turned the organ on fuzz tone and put both elbows on all the keys. And just made this horrible noise coming out. And I turned up my guitar all the way and turned the amp up all the way and put it on fuzz, and it just made this one loud feedback, and it was just this wall of sound. The kids started moving toward the stage going like that. The sound was so radical. So the roadies and Herbie and the German promoter started dismantling the equipment and taking off stage piece by piece while we're making this feedback. And this guy is up there still trying to rant, he's can't hear anything he's saying. Yeah.
I heard that because you guys did go back on stage, getting a lot of respect from people. You didn't think it would have really been an all-out riot had you not gone back after that?
Yeah, not only that, it would have been a riot, and we probably would have lost all of our equipment. The Rolling Stones had a similar situation with probably about 10 times as many kids at an open-air place there, and the kids charged down off the stands, and they did lose all their equipment. Just got destroyed.
Was that
German radicalism is its own brand.
Is it political, pretty oriented?
I don't know whether it's specifically political or it has something to do with some deep-seated nationalistic weirdness that happens when you drink that much beer and just have that kind of upbringing.
Yeah, the first time I ever saw you guys do your thing was at the Village Theater in New York City.
Garrick Theater.
Garrick Theater.
I saw.
With
I
the
saw a show there.
the Grateful Dead were playing next door at the Cafe Go-Go.
Yeah.
And Sal Lombardo was on stage, and the whole time, the guy named Michael, who's a press agent, was brushing his hair.
Yeah, he's not a press agent anymore. That guy turned out to be a real geek.
Yeah, well, people don't really understand everything you do. You know, they understand the stuff with the lyrics, you know, and they get off on the humor of it, but they don't understand the orchestral numbers, you know, the long things without.
Well, I think that basically it comes down to this: the people who like what we do automatically probably just have a different kind of taste, and maybe have a little bit more of a musical background to appreciate what's going on behind the lyrics. And the ones who like some of the albums because the lyrics are probably just interested in it only for a humorous thing, probably wouldn't hear the music under any circumstances. I think generally the taste of not just the teenage audience but all audiences is oriented to whatever happens to be generally popular during that season. So for instance, if soft rock is in and we do something that is not soft rock, we are out. Or if loud rock is in and we do something which is not loud rock, we are out. Or if something else is in, we are out. But chances are, most of the time, we are out from whatever else is going on because we don't function in accordance with the general trends of things.
How do you feel about being a lot less out than you were in '65? I mean, a lot less out. I mean, in '65 it was really weird. Freak Out was a really strange album.
To be weird.
Well, by comparison with what was being released in '65, Freak Out was awfully strange. But if you listen to it now, it's not strange at all.
Right.
So the fact of the matter is that it's just the conservatism of the audience that has changed.
You mean audiences are catching up with it?
No.
You think the weird is...
No, I'd explain it this way. At the time that Freak Out was released, the things that were happening were like the Byrds and the Beatles and Herman and the Hermits and things like that.
It's not weird anymore. It's almost like normal.
No, it's like I don't think people really know what weird is. I think they accept superficial weirdness as being something really.
How many people do you think really understand the music? All the progressions and the changes and besides you, how many people do you think really understand it all?
Conservatively?
Yeah. Well,
10.
Yeah. And are they all people who play music, or just
I don't
people?
know, but I would just pick that as a number.
Does that make you feel strange? I mean, that some people really, can get off on it, and other people are just,
Well, I can't do very much about it. I'm not in a position to re-educate the total population of the world. I just go and do what I do, and if somebody likes it, that's really nice. That's very highly fortunate. But if they don't, there's not much in the way of therapy that can be applied.
Do you see yourself
have to twist their arm in order to make them dig it? Well, the hardest thing for me right now is just trying to continue doing what I'm doing in the face of a certain amount of apathy. Just a question of how long I can enjoy doing that to a blank wall.
What else is happening in music or around
Don't
music?
ask me.
No. Well, just that you feel that gets you off, or that you feel is.
That whatever would
real.
get me off is definitely irrelevant to 99% of your audience. So I'd say.
Well, that's not a fact.
Let me ask you a really frank question. What is your feeling about the average audience? Your average audience.
Any audience has a right to be entertained, and all musics exist solely for the entertainment of the people who like to hear those various musics. People who like to hear Grand Funk Railroad are not only entitled to hear Grand Funk Railroad, but it's a good thing that they exist in order to entertain the people who get off on that sort of thing.